Sony A7V. Finally, Sony released a camera that I think I will love it. So let me share with you my thoughts about Sony A7V and why I do think that I will get it. So let's talk about this now. Hi there, Tudor Matescu here. In this video, I want to share with you Sony pictures and my experience with Sony cameras and why finally I do feel that Sony really did it, really released a true great photographic camera for street photography, for everyday photography, and also of course for wedding, event photography and all kinds of photography where you will need a camera like this, so portraiture photography and so on, because Sony cameras are really good for these types of photography. But for me as a street photographer and as a passionate photographer and as an everyday photographer, I always wanted a camera from Sony that will be able to deliver me great ergonomics, great colors and great usability. I have here Sony A7C Mark I and I've used Sony A7S Mark I, Sony A7 Mark I, Sony A7III, Sony A7III and now Sony A7C. So lots of Sony cameras, and I've always had the problems with these Sony cameras. So on paper, lots of influencers praised Sony cameras, but they've always had a problem that I didn't like. And of course, one problem remains that I don't like on this Sony camera, but this is a Sony and we must deal with the design of the camera, with the form of the camera, with that box, computer-like box that it's not inviting you to pick it up. But on Sony cameras, there were problems that were annoying me. Like AF. Let's talk about this AF because lots of people praise the AF of Sony cameras. Yes, Sony A7III has good AF. It is the only camera that I've used where I was pretty satisfied with the AF, and now Sony A7C. But Sony A7S didn't have great AF, and also it was very praised for this. And also Sony A7III didn't have great AF, especially in low light and especially with third-party lenses. But in general, the AF of Sony A7III that I've bought brand new, it was really bothering me. It wasn't good. Just with some Sony lenses, it was delivering, especially in good light. And of course, we could hear the excuse, no, it's not good because it's a big sensor. Go get Sony A7III. Okay, Sony A7III, I didn't like the colors. I didn't like the other stuff that it's on Sony A7III. And I would say that I've loved more Sony A7III for ergonomics. So my love regarding ergonomics, usability, and what you've got on that Sony A7III, it was really perfect, except the AF. And after this, I've upgraded, I've sought with Sony A7C for everyday photography. I sought to myself a lighter package, a smaller package, and with better AF. And I knew that the AF from Sony A7C was better than the AF from Sony A7III because I've used from my friend Sony A7C. And yes, the AF was better and everything was better also regarding colors, but I've lost the great ergonomics from Sony A7III. And after this, Sony released Sony A7 IV and Sony A7R V. Should I tell you that Sony A7 IV doesn't have a true mechanical shutter and it has a flippy screen? It has a flippy screen. And also this has a flippy screen and a very annoying sound of the so-called mechanical shutter, and also not a great electronical shutter. So again, you see that there are little tidbits from there and there that are making from a Sony camera not a camera that I'm loving to take it and to use it for everyday photography because it's not able to fulfill me what I need, especially in street photography. So again, in street photography, I do like to shoot especially wide lenses, so from 24, 35, 40 millimeters field of view. So I'm liking a lot these types of lenses and this field of view. And in this type of lenses and with this field of view, you really need to get close. And with a flippy screen like this, you can't see and you can't compose just if you flip the screen. And also with the annoying mechanical shutter, if you are getting too close to your subject, you'll disturb the subject. So it's pretty hard to take pictures. It is really pretty hard to take pictures and to have fun and to enjoy taking pictures. I had more fun, I would say, with Sony A7 III RA because I was able to use the mechanical shutter with just front curtain electronical shutter, but because it didn't have the artificial sound from A7C, it was more silent and more usable, plus adding the screen from Sony A7C. And from this long story, I am coming to my conclusion why I love Sony A7 V. So it seems that Sony resolved all these problems in Sony A7 V for me, for my liking, for my street photography, for my everyday photography. So you will get a fully mechanical shutter, not a front curtain electronical shutter like you get on Sony A7C. Big deal here. Also, I was able to listen to the mechanical shutter of Sony A7 V, and yes, it is more silent than the mechanical shutter from Sony A7C and also from Sony A7 III RA. Boom! So you'll have a pretty silent mechanical shutter. I would say as silent as Nikon ZF from what I was able to see, almost as silent. So this is huge deal here, huge deal here. And if you put Sony A7 V in electronical shutter, boom, you'll have a camera very silent for street photography with a tilt screen. And now let's talk about this tilt screen. So it seems that they've improved the tilt screen. Basically, you have a brighter tilt screen, and also you have a tilt screen that also will flip and will tilt. So 4-axis tilt screen. So finally you can use however you want that tilt screen. So for me it's huge deal. I can get rid of this flippy screen that it's really annoying me. And also you have a better viewfinder than Sony A7C. And also you'll have the latest sensor with 33 megapixels. And for me this is also a huge deal. So also on Sony A7 III RA, I didn't like the huge files, the 48 megapixel files. I really don't need so much resolution. This is why I didn't go to Sony A7R5, and also this why I'm not liking too much the 40 megapixel sensor from Fujifilm, because I have big files and I really don't need such big files for everyday photography. I would have really wished Fujifilm to implement a compressed RAW file like Sony is doing. So anyway, you'll have compressed RAW files and a sweetest spot resolution there, 33 megapixels. This also means that you'll be able to shoot in APS-C mode, keeping the 14 megapixel resolution. Boom. So basically, this Sony A7 V can replace my A6400 without any problems. Because also, even if I like this camera a lot, I do have a problem with the screen. This screen is not ideal, is not very visible, even if it's a tilt screen, and I will not enter into much details about Sony APS-C lineup. But basically, with Sony A7 V, I can replace two Sony cameras, Sony A7C and Sony A6400, keeping the tilt screen, having a great EVF, and also having great IBIS. So the IBIS, it is much better. So basically for photography with Sony A7 V, I'm fully packed regarding photography. So I will have a mechanical shutter silent, I will have a camera that I can shoot it in APS-C mode and also in full frame mode with finally great AF. So again, the AF till Sony A7C on Sony cameras, from my point of view, it was a deal breaker, except the AF from Sony A7 III. The AF from Sony A7 III, pretty okay. But from Sony A7C, there is another discussion. So yes, I know Sony are pretty praised for their AF, but from my point of view, the real and true improvements came with Sony A7C and the latest cameras from Sony A7 IV and so on. But basically on Sony A7 V, you will have all these problems corrected. All these problems regarding photography are gone. So tilt screen, great IBIS, improved tilt screen regarding resolution and how you can see the screen, improved colors, film simulations, and an EVF and a silent mechanical shutter, and also very usable files, how I've said, in full frame, terms and also in APS-C terms. Also, you have lots of video specs if you are into videography. So if you want to do professional videography, you'll have there all kinds of specs regarding videography. I really don't care regarding this open gate, and I want to address a little this marketing trick that is now open gate, like the marketing trick regarding megapixels. So a camera with more megapixels, it is better, and you need more megapixels, you need 4K, you need 8K, you need open gate now. Let's be serious. Lots of cameras are shooting in open gate, GoPro cameras, and lots of cameras. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal if you don't have the right lens to make the composition. So it's not like you will be able to make all kinds of crops and you'll be the social media king. This isn't true. These are fake marketing candies that are thrown on the YouTube to make you buy this camera. Yes, open gate is cool. Yes, open gate can help, but it can help with a lens that it is pretty wide, or with a zoom lens, and you really need to know what you are doing. So it's not for everybody. So it's not like open gate, I can't buy Sony A7 V because it's no open gate. No, open gate for a hybrid camera like Sony A7 V, from my point of view, is not a discussion. You really don't need open gate, and also you really don't need so much frames per second regarding slow motion videos, because you'll have there enough. What I was able to see is that also you have great IBIS in video, and also they are praising the white balance, huge deal here, that is controlled by AI to have a more accurate auto white balance. So I do think that this is very important for Sony. I do hope that they have better auto white balance and better colors on Sony A7 V. This remains to be seen, but overall, yes, I do agree that the colors from Sony A7C and above are better. So if the Sony A7 V colors will be at this level, I am pretty okay. So the only downside with Sony A7 V for me, the only downside is that it's a Sony. It's a Sony. It's looking like a Sony. It's looking like a box. It's acting like a Sony. So it will not be a camera that I will take it for pleasure, but I will take it to get stuff done. This is the idea. I will not take for sure that camera for pleasure. Why? Wow, how much I love this camera. I will take it for pleasure. No, I will take it to get stuff done without thinking, without worrying regarding tilt screen, the sound of the mechanical shutter, without worrying regarding AF, without worrying regarding colors, without worrying regarding image quality. So a camera to get stuff done. So huge deal here, and if I will love it in the future, who knows? And also, if you want to enjoy Sony cameras, I do advise look at those Loxia lenses, because I've used the Loxia lineup on Sony A7S, and it was a real pleasure to shoot manual focus Loxia lenses. They worked perfect on the Sony A7S camera. So huge improvement regarding Sony cameras, and I really do think that I will upgrade my Sony A7C to Sony A7 V. Please tell me your thoughts, leave me your comments, share this video, like this video, subscribe to my newsletter for more photography tips and tricks. And what is free and is helping this channel to grow, it is to watch my next videos. Thank you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.